Hi everyone, I'm your host Neha and you're tuned into Durian Dreaming, the show that brings you extraordinary stories from seemingly ordinary experiences in Indonesia's fast-paced market. Let's dive into today's conversation with another inspiring guest. On today's episode, we are joined by the powerhouse leader Taufiq Basthami. Taufiq is the country general manager and director at Universal Robina Corporation, where he's been making waves in the consumer goods industry. From his early days at Procter & Gamble to shaping sales strategies at Kraft Food and Fonterra, Taufiq has worked with some of the biggest names in the business. But it's his leadership at URC that's really earned him. The company has recently been named the most trusted company in Indonesia. So whether it's turning around underperforming brands or staying ahead of the competition, Taufiq knows how to drive success. He's got an incredible journey, full of leadership lessons, market insights, and a lot of stories we all can learn from. So let's dive into his world. Hi, Taufiq. It's a pleasure to have you on a podcast. Welcome to Durian Dreaming.
Hi, Neha. It's also a pleasure for me to be in your podcast. It's an honor.
Thank you, Taufiq. So, Taufiq, let's start with your journey. How did you go from P&G to URC, and what made you take that leap?
Okay, so it's not a direct journey, so it's a bit longer than a direct journey. So I started with Procter & Gamble. And then after that, I moved to several companies. From Procter & Gamble, I moved to Kraft Foods and then to Indolacto. Indolacto is part of Indofood, which is a local company. And then to Fonterra and eventually to Universal Robina. Okay, so what brings me to Universal Robina was two things, I would say. Number one is there's an opportunity in Universal Robina at the time. They need a general manager to transform the business. And I was at that time in the circle of the HR chief HR officer of Universal Robina, who we know each other during our craft time. So she invited me to join, and that's it. So from there, I become part of Universal Robina Corporations.
So, Taufiq, because in P&G you were managing sales.
Correct.
And now at URC you are the general manager.
Yes.
So what's the biggest difference in your day-to-day working?
All right. Well, of course, functionally in sales and in a general management is totally different, right? In sales, we are going into a very detailed functional works, operational day to day. And when we go into general management, we have to oversee all the operations, right? So I have to learn all the other functions. I started as sales, my expertise in sales. When I become general manager, I have to understand all. I have to understand finance, operation, manufacturing, right, HR, and everything. Yeah? So I think that's the big difference. Where from previously it's a specialist, right? Now we have to be generalists. We have to understand all the dynamic. Of course, I cannot understand all the details in the each department, but I need to understand the overall picture, right?
And what is the biggest thing that took you by surprise? So I understand from a specialist role, like you said, you went to a generalist role. So you need to know all other functions as well. Maybe not so much in depth. But what really took you by surprise?
Well, number one is on manufacturing side, because I've never been exposed in manufacturing sites. You see in P&G, we are very commercial, right? In Kraft Food, also very commercial. But then running a company in totality, you need to understand also on operation manufacturing, right? So that's where I need to understand, all the specific difference of each machinery, how the operation and everything. And there are a lot of operational things that is really new for me. And so it's my biggest learning that I need to understand a lot also at that time.
Tawfiq, you've been in the FMCG game for a while now,
Mm.
working with big names like Kraft and Fonterra.
Mm.
Who has been the biggest influence on you and what's made them stand out?
Yeah. Well, in preparation for general manager role, surprisingly, I learned a lot from my local company experience, which is when I was with Indofood, Indolacto. So
Okay.
in a multinational company, P&G, Kraft Foods, Fonterra, it is very commercial, details-driven skills that I learned, right? But managing the whole company, surprisingly, I learned from local company in Indofood. Reason why? Because the way multinational and local company works different. Yeah, especially in Indonesia. Usually in Indonesia, multinational always separate between commercial and manufacturing. Right, so they have their own line for commercial and separate line for manufacturing. So we're not really interacting, right? But in local company, this is really total operation, right? And I sit in the board of Indolacto as part of leadership team. So whenever we have meeting, everything, we talk total operational company, including manufacturing. And at that time, we did a lot of activity, also investment on manufacturing. So I was involved also in that, and that gives me, a lot of learning about manufacturing. So when I eventually become general managers, I didn't start my manufacturing, what do you call it, my manufacturing knowledge with zero. I have some starting point in Indofood. So that linked me, that make me being able to start fast, when I becoming the general managers. Yeah. So there are two sides of learning which I see it complementing each other. Right? In multinational company, I learn all the very detail, become expert on one thing. But in local company, I learn how to really manage company as a total operation without just looking into the silo function by function.
Oh, so you got your first sort of an experience of being a generalist or a general manager with the local company Indolato.
Yes, correct.
So these are the skills that you learn in the companies, like in the multinational companies and in the local companies.
Mm.
Now, what's one crazy thing that you learned about consumer behavior during your time in these companies?
This is my constant experience from P&G, from Kraft, Laptop, crazy thing, yeah. The change in consumer behavior can make a brand, a category, or even company disappear. Yeah. For example, before I joined P&G in Indonesia, P&G in Indonesia was known and very big with fixed candy. But when I joined, the fixed candy already gone. It's a thought drop. Yeah. So it was very big, but that's long before I joined P&G. Yeah. When I joined, the business gone already, and that's because they're changing behavior when the company increase price, and they increase it to the point that it's beyond consumers can accept. Business gone. In Kraft and Olapta also, there are two brands. Biscuit. Biscuit is a biscuit, and then Milkwat is a milk drink. During Kraft time, it's a very big business, and then they price it at a very low price, 500 rupiah. But then because every year the raw material pricing increase, right? You cannot maintain that, and at a certain point they have to break the price. So from 500 they went into 1,000. The business disappear. So consumer doesn't want to accept the new price point. Mm-hmm. And then when I was in the lacto, we at that time acquired Milkwat, which is at the time part of Danone company. So Danone Dairy. Same thing. So Milkwat started selling milk drink for 1,000, and then after several times they cannot continue selling that, and they want to increase the price. And when they break the price again, consumer doesn't accept it, and the business gone. So Danone at the time had to sell the company. So Indoracto acquired. So this is always be my reminder that consumer centricity is the center, of managing FMCG. We always need to see the changing in behavior of consumers, right? Because if we fail to anticipate that, a brand, category, or even company, can disappear. And I've seen that in my experience.
Oh, wow. It's fascinating how much consumer behavior can shift things.
Mm.
I mean, you have clearly seen it firsthand with brands disappearing when they miss those changes. But Tawfiq, you've also turned around some businesses and boosted performance.
Mm.
So what's the secret sauce behind making that magic happen?
Yeah.
I mean, any examples that you can share?
Yeah. Okay, so when I first joined URC, my mandate was to turn around the company, accelerate the business, and make it more profitable, right? So there are four things I usually see, when I started the business. The business itself, right? The system, the people, or organizations, and the culture, right? So I see all that. From that, I see, several key things that we need to fix, right, to go into the transformations. In the case of URC, for example, so when I started, the business model was really focused on GT. So they're selling low price products. So similar with the previous example that I mentioned, they sell product in the price point of 500, 1,000. Majority is in GT, right? And suddenly it gives me, a certain feeling of, wow, if this is continue, I can be in a trouble like the previous company experience I have encountered, right? So I have to change that. And if I compare to the landscape in the category is not like that. Category is actually contributed more in the MT channel rather than GT, right? And competitors actually playing at the higher price point level, right? So this is the first things that we really did, right? How to transform the business from majority in the low price point to go into higher price point, from majority in GT to MT. And why we do that? Because when we can pivot the business more to MT, we can sell at a much higher price. And when you talk about price point, MT is more stable, less price sensitive. Yeah. You can always increase price in MT, 2-3% year on year without consumer notice it, right? But in GT, you are trapped in price point. Yeah, your price point is coinage, right? 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, right? When you are the price point 1,000, right? And then every year, let's say packaging material, raw material increase by 2-3%, you cannot increase it because you cannot price your product 1,030, for example, or 1,050. Cannot, right? You have to on the coinage, right? But once you break the coinage, you're not relevant into a certain category, right? Let's say, for example, you are 1,000 and you want to increase price to 2,000, you are in a different set of category, right? But in MT, you can always increase it year on year, without too much consumer feel that or even notice that, right? And because the price point is much higher, essentially you get more margin, right? So profitability is better. And because of that, and you are becoming more profitable, you can invest more to the business. So that's essentially what we did. Yeah. Of course, we are also doing all the things of product reformulation to make it more in line with consumer aspiration, make it more efficient in terms of productions in a plant, everything. Yeah. But it's centered around that. And by doing that, we were able to continuously improve our margin. Continuously growing because we are shifting to much higher price point, and operationally we become more efficient. Yeah? Because you can imagine, the plant can produce X thousand carton of low price point. Yeah? For the same time or same resources, they can produce much more a similar product but much more value with higher price point, right? So your efficiency and effectiveness in manufacturing become much more higher, right? And that's become some of the key ingredients why we have successfully transformed the company, to be able to more profitable, growing faster, and then we can invest more to support the brand and the business.
Tawfiq, you talked about that how one should keep the pricing strategy along with the channel strategy in mind.
Yeah.
And you talked about at length that how a plant which is manufacturing a low price point product can also make a high price point product, thereby improving the margins and the bottom line.
Correct.
That brings me to my next question. Because in Indonesia, CPG space, and there are many products in different price points, right?
Correct.
How do you keep up with the changing trends and make sure your products stand out in a crowded market?
Okay. For example, let me example our biggest brand, Piatos, right? So when we started, Piatos is positioned as a kids brand. So the main consumers is a younger kid from secondary schools, primary school to secondary school, right? But we want to pivot the business more to MT, and we realized that in MT, consumer set is different. In MT is more older consumers, right? It's not the younger consumers. So at that time, then we said that we need to differentiate that and have a different kind of products. So when we started to expand to MT, we introduced Piatos version that is catered for the older consumers. At that time, we call it Indonesian series. So to differentiate it, because our basic Piatos potato chips is more of a standard flavors like roast beef, cheese, and all that. We want the brand, the product to be relevant to the older consumers. So we introduced the Indonesian series where we features the hot series. Hot series is with the flavor of sambal. Sambal is the chili paste.
I've tried that and it's very addictive.
Exactly. So Indonesian love sambal so much, right? So we introduced several series of sambal geprek, sambal mata, sambal, several sambal kind of that, right? And several also flavors of Indonesian cuisines like balado, iga, penyet, and all that, right? So when we introduce this, this variant speaks to different kind of consumers. They speak to all the consumers.
And what do you think makes the Indonesian market or the consumers so unique compared to other countries?
Okay, when we talk about food, because I'm in the food business, the taste of palate is different, right? I mean, unlike some other category, like for example, when I was P&G selling shampoo, it's more universal. Yeah, people need a anti-dandruff shampoo and all that. But in food, it's different, right? I mean, people in other country probably like something sweet. In Indonesia, they like something spicy, something hot. So we have to adjust that, right? And within URC, that's our strategy. So we have global brand like Piatos. We have in almost all the markets, but in every market we have different tastes, different flavors, really adjusted to the palates of each consumers. And I think that's one of the success story of URC, because they can really adjust, to the local consumer preference.
Okay. And okay, this is about food industry and about the food related products because you're in that space. What's one product or campaign you wish you had been a part of that you didn't get the chance to work on?
Within my company or outside the company?
Across your experience so far. So in different companies as well, like your P&G, Fonterra.
Probably I would a bit tweak that. I mean, I had an experience which I really like, about growing category. I was part of it, so it's a bit different with your question. So let me explain it. So when I was in Kraft Foods, at the time I was the sales head of the cheese business. So the cheese challenge in Indonesia when I joined Kraft Food at the time was they thought that cheese is not Indonesian, diet, right? Indonesian doesn't really eat cheese, right? So they thought that cheese consumption is limited. The growth is low single digit, right? So they don't have really, a lot of expectation on the growth of the brand. So when I joined, I was also quite surprised because they gave me the target, and target is only single digit. And I was coming from P&G, and in P&G you never get single digit target, right? It's always double digit, right? And so, what? My target is only single digit, right? But then I'm questioning, why? Because they said, because cheese is consumption is very limited. It's a part of Indonesian diet. The share of craft cheese at the time was already very high, right? So we said that no, I think we should find a way to really accelerate the growth of this category. So I see it from different perspective. Yes, consumption is still low, but I see it as an opportunity, right? That means you can grow bigger because the consumption is only small, right? Penetration is low, we can only go bigger, right? So at that time, this is teamwork, so not just me or sales team. So together with the marketing team, we did the research, right? So at that research, the idea is to find a new consumption opportunity where consumers can really consume cheese, right? And we know that cheese in Indonesia consumption peak during festive time, which is fasting month and then Eid or Lebaran, right? And cheese is already being used for a traditional cake. They call it kastengel. So there's cookies with the cheese on top, right? And then the team is doing the research now. How can we make another recipe with cheese from the already existing traditional cookies that we can convert into cookies with cheese, right? And then I found out that one of the big recipe was a cake called nastar.
Okay.
Do you know nastar is usually inside is the what they call it pineapple, right? So team is working together with the chef to make a recipe of nastar with cheese. So they put cheese in the dough, they put the cheese in the inside and a topping, right? And then we explode that in all the campaigns, in advertising, in the display. We made a trade program with that. We make an in-store demo of cooking nastar. Yeah. And at that time, if I'm not mistaken, that was in 2015 or 16. Suddenly nastar keju, they call it keju is cheese in bahasa. Nastar keju become a staple. Become the new cakes in that year. And suddenly during that year, our cheese in that festive grew by 70%. I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean,
yeah, I've had nastar cookies, and I used to find it very unique to Indonesia, like cheese and pineapple mixed together. But it's a very acquired taste, and I think it's once you get used to that taste, since it's an acquired taste, it's quite delicious, and it's very, very unique to Indonesia. And now I know the origin of it.
Right, and after that, it stays, yeah. So Kraft Food Indonesia did a campaign in 2015 or 16, if I remember, and after that they stay, and that became the recipe even until now.
This is really cool, and so glad to learn how nastar cookies came into origin. I'm just going to go back in time a little bit. Can you also recall or share a marketing campaign from your time at Kraft or P&G that you still think about today? Or any learnings that you have taken from those campaigns and you are still reapplying them to your current role?
Yeah, there is one experience. At the time in P&G, I was still a junior trade marketing manager. So I came from sales and I just shifted to the trade marketing role, right? So at the time we did a campaign for a brand called Rejoice, and the marketing team came up with a campaign of Rejoice makes your hair like rebonding. Rebonding being straight, right?
Yeah.
And as you know, they put a high drug and everything. So my sales team questioning, how come you agree to put a high target just because of that? Because usually the sales team will always, what is your promotion? What is your discount and everything, right?
Yeah.
And I said, discount everything just the same, but we will do a campaign like this. Everybody just questioning, how come just a campaign like that will turn around the business, right? But then that's marketing team did a very good advertising, heavy media and everything. And suddenly, it really drives demand because at the time rebonding is really big thing during that time, during that year, right?
Yeah.
And they associate that with Rejoice, and suddenly the brand like exploded. And even at the time as a salesperson, at the time I was like questioning whether this is really be able to explode the brand, and I'm seeing from salesperson. But at that time, then I really become convert.
This campaign was for which country?
It's Indonesia, for Indonesia. And from that, I believe that when we have a very good angle for marketing, it can really also, elevate the brand to the next level.
Yeah. Thanks, Taufiq. Taufiq, in my introductions, I read that URC Indonesia has earned the title of the most trusted company.
Yeah.
What do you think earned them that title?
So we won the award, I think 2-3 years ago. So during that time, that's where our band started to really gain foot, especially on the MT team. So coupled with that, we also won the most popular digital award for our Piatos brand. And then we also at that time certified the ISO and then several manufacturing certification, right? So at that time, suddenly we get a lot of news, a lot of exposure, right? And also our business at the time grow quite aggressively, accelerated the growth. Because of all the thing happened, then we earned that. So we also improved on quality. We also at the time won several quality competitions within our manufacturing. So all these factors really contribute to this. So it's like at that year several things fall in place, and eventually we earn that.
Okay, and how do you keep your team motivated or excited to work with you at URC?
Well, something that they're really feeling motivated is because they see every year, there always progress, there's always something new, there's always something different, right? When I started the journey, I always use this quote. It's from Nelson Mandela. He said that it always seems impossible until it's done. Yeah. Why I said that? Because when I started this journey, I shared the vision like this, blah, 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 blah. And some of them, because they've been there, very long time in the company, said, no, Pat, that's impossible. We have done that, it doesn't deliver, what they expected, right? So there are always rejections during the early time, right? Because they've been used to do something with their own ways, right? But I need to do the transformation, and transformation, we need to deliver something different, right? You need to do something different. Otherwise, you will not get it, right? So, of course, I work with them. I try to engage them, energize them, show them how to do it, enable them, execute with them together. And when they see that, oh, we can do that, we can deliver that, So year after year, they become on board on the vision. Like last year, we won the one of the top 10 in the best workplace in Indonesia. So URC was number 8. So we are certified for Great Place to Work for 3 years in a row, and the third year, just last year, we earned top 10. So we are number 8. We also won the HR Asia Best Place to Work. We won the most caring company. So we, all those things really make our people really engage, and they're energized, and they see and they believe that they can see the progress of the company. Even some of my team, they can see themselves, they get promoted, they progress their career with the company. So that's really motivate them and really make them energized and committed to be with URC.
Taufiq, firstly, congratulations on the other awards.
Thank you.
But as a leader, there will be days which are challenging and stressful. So how do you how do you approach these challenges and handle the stress?
Okay. I think being honest is number one. So we have to, if some of the decision that we made was turned out to be not relevant with the situations, we have to be honest and accept that. And we have to communicate that with the organizations, not just our team, but also to the bosses, management, and then see what kind of things that we can do. Yeah, like for example, we had a very hard time during 2022 22, which is that's after COVID, and then there's an increase in fuel price. So I think 2022 September, around that, there was a huge increase in fuel price, and that really affected the market because consumers suddenly lost a lot of purchasing power because all the price increases, right? So before that, during that year, we had a very good year. So we had a double-digit, very strong growth. We thought at the time that we are going to end the year with big bang and all that. But because of that, suddenly business tanked, and that continue in the 2023. Yeah, so there are a lot of frustrations with the organizations. Why, from going very aggressively, suddenly we are declining, right? So, we acknowledge the situations. Some of the things that we decided probably not relevant anymore with the changing of situations. So we change strategy, we communicate that. Organization probably see why we changed the strategy because we have already decided that, right? But we accept that, but the strategy that we decided before is no longer relevant because time is now very different, right? The consumer's expectation or consumer landscape is different. We have to also change, right? And it takes time until business really bounce back, right? So during that time, yes, team was really like not motivated, but we as at the time as the leadership of the company, we travel a lot to branches. We speak to all functions, explaining the situation and show what we are doing. And when eventually business bounce back, they can see that, oh, okay, the strategy that we now change works, and that becomes new motivation for them. Yeah. So for us also, it's it's very depressing to see your business from going like this suddenly like that, right? So it's very depressing. Yeah. But I think within organizations, within the especially leadership team, we work as a team. We don't fire. We don't finger pointing. We don't blame each other. We work together, and that really I think very important because during tough time when people feel safe, that's where they can really be able to bring the best, right? If they feel threatened, they will just leave the company one by one in a tough situation, right? When people start blaming each other, people will just find their way out, right?
Yeah, very illuminating point that, when your staff or your colleagues feel threatened in the tough times is when they will not be able to deliver. But if they feel not threatened, even in the tough times, they will bring their best.
Yes.
I mean, it's a very fascinating way to look at it and a very illuminating point. And I was actually about to ask you, because you've had, throughout your work experience, you've had your fair share of wins. But what's one failure that ended up teaching you the most?
One failure. I think, during that time when so to give a bit more context on that. So before the government announced the fuel increase, at that time, we as a management, we decided to discontinue our low price point products, which is 500 and 1000. Because again, as the material prices increases, we cannot make money, right? So we decided to cut that. And the timing of that just coincident with the time of the price, the fuel increase. Of course, we didn't know the fuel will increase in September, right? So we have made that decision, I think, in July. So July, August, September is just depleting the remaining stock. But then suddenly, government increased price of the fuel, right? And suddenly it changed the consumers' purchasing power. The consumers from the bottom of pyramid can no longer afford the product in the 2,000 price point, and they still need the 1,000 price point. They still need 500 price point, right? But we discontinued the product already, right? So what we see in our 2,000 product for GT, it's declining because consumers couldn't afford that, right? So it's I would say it's a failure because of the situations, right? And we accepted that as a failure, and as a management team at the time, we revised that decision. We relaunched again the 500 and 1,000 because that's what our consumers wanted at that time. They could not afford higher price point, right? So we relaunched again, right? Although there are a lot of push in the you can imagine, right, in the team. Oh, we have already decided this. Why we went back to the previous decision? It's like correcting that. But I said to the team, the consumer landscape changed, and this is what consumers needed, right? And our company exists because there's the consumers who purchase our product, who consume our products, right? If the consumer cannot purchase or they cannot afford anymore, we're not relevant. Our business, we are losing the business, right? So eventually the organizations accepted that, and so we relaunched that, and it helps the sales to again bounce back. Yeah.
Oh, very nice, very interesting. Taufiq, you have managed some top performing teams, even during the challenging times. The business was tough. What's your secret to building a high energy creative team?
Okay, usually my method is, I understand the team, I understand them in totality. So I understand their background, I understand their emotion, understand their character, understand their dreams and all that. Yeah. Because when we can really unlock that, right, we understand why people have these characters, what triggered them to be that, right? What do they dream of achieving in the future? And we can really help them, to continue progressing their career, right?
Okay, so if you could fast forward 10 years, where do you see URC Indonesia? And what role would you like to have played in it?
Well, I would say our dream has always been making URC as reputable company, alongside any reputable company in Indonesia, right? Actually, we have set this dream, for example, 2-3 years ago, we said that we want to be at the top 10 of best workplaces in Indonesia. And that we set that for a long-term vision. We said, we want to achieve it in the next 5 years. Turn out we achieve it in 3 years, So, again, sometimes, what happens and when we set a very ambitious target, we will be surprised to see that we can achieve it even much faster than that, right? So I want to see that URC become big players in the food and beverage, especially food industry in Indonesia. We deliver good product, good quality products, becoming trusted by consumers and society, and our people also prosper, and our people can also be happy and they're proud to working with URC, right? And I'm very happy to be a facilitator for that dreams to be achieved, because my happiness every year is to see when our team get recognition, right? Even just recently last year, I was so happy that my modern team was voted as rank 3 in Advantage Survey. So Advantage Survey is the surveys from third party who surveys the supplier. So from the eyes of the customers like Alfamart, Indomart, and everything. So they made a survey. So my team was number 3, and the previous year we are number 15. So from 15 to 3 is such a huge jump in a year, right? And that's really because my MT team is really able to engage the customers. They are trusted. And this is really something that makes me, so proud that they can achieve that.
Oh, wow. Jumping from 15 to 3 in just a year. I mean, that's incredible. Huge congrats to you and your team for the awards and recognitions, Taufiq. I mean, sounds like URC is making big dreams happen fast. Now, with that, I really want to understand what's one myth about being a country GM that you'd love to bust?
Mm, hmm. It's a tough question. I think one thing, at the beginning, I thought that I need to understand, all the functions in very detail. But then eventually from experience, and I realized that as a GM, you don't need to be, understand every detail of the functions, but you need to see big picture, right? You need to see from helicopter view, right? Because you have people working under you, right? And they are more expert than you, right? So I cannot be expert than my supply chain director, for example. I cannot be expert from my CFO, for example. So I have to trust them. I have to trust their recommendations and everything. So instead of me making decision, I need to listen to them, right? See their point of view and really value their input, right? So I think as a GM, it's more like as a conductor in an orchestra, right? They're the expert of playing the instrument, right? I mean, I'm not sure the conductor are expert in playing all the instruments in the orchestra because there are so many, right? From piano, violin, oboe, and everything, right? I mean, similar with the GM, right? You cannot be expert in everything, but you need to see the big picture. As a conductor, you need to listen to all the music instrument being played and to see the harmonious melody, right? And that's, I think, the roles that really needs to be taken by the GM.
Oh, very, very enlightening and very brilliant perspective. I really liked how you brought out the entire orchestra and drawing semblance to it with various functions in an organization.
Right.
So one cannot master it all. And
right.
that's where, like you rightly said, you need to trust your teammates and the functional heads to do their part. Okay, Taufiq, finally, last question. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone who's aspiring to be a general manager?
Okay. I think I would say start always go from your comfort zone. Learn something new, right? So for example, I reflect my experience. When I was in sales, I projected myself out. I'm not just looking into my field as a sales. When I sit in the board meeting, when all the other functions presenting, the departments, manufacturing, finance, HR, everything, I really learn. I really listen to them, learn that, and try to understand, engage in the conversation, asking questions, everything, and observe, how my GM, asking questions and all the discussions.
Right. Thanks, Taufiq, for such brilliant answers. And I think the conversation is very engaging.
Thank you very much also. It's my honor to be in your podcast.
No, it's a pleasure to have you as well, Taufiq. We wish you all the best. And we hope URC achieves more awards and accolades. And the team is always pumped up and encouraged. And that's a wrap for this episode of Durian Dreaming. I hope today's discussion sparked some new ideas for you. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts, and stay tuned for more exciting stories. Until next time, keep dreaming big.